I think anyone who enjoys reading the Bible loves the beginning of the letter to the Hebrews. The writer says, "My brothers and sisters, in times past, God spoke in partial and various ways to our ancestors through the prophets. In these last days, he spoke to us through the Son, whom he made heir of all things, and through whom he created the universe, who is the refulgence of his glory, the very imprint of his being." Here's the situation. When God walked with Adam and Eve in the garden, he told them what to do and what not to do so that they could be united with him. That was his plan. When they sinned and were thrown out of the garden, people didn't have that same intimacy with God. And so they would do whatever they could to try to be good. It's where we come up with ethics or natural law. I don't want someone to lie to me, so I won't lie. I don't want someone to steal from me, so I won't steal. And in this way, from reason, we can figure out what is good and bad. But when God tells Abraham to take his family and move, Abraham has an experience of God. When Moses comes across the burning bush, it's not enough for him to simply be good. He must do what God has commanded him. You see, because as God's plan for us unfolds, it becomes more concrete. And so God gives the law to Moses, and it's 10 commandments. But the people fall away. They fall back into sin. And so in order to help the people stay close to him, he gives another 613. Just to keep us from going astray. But in these last days, God has spoken to us through his Son. And if we understand, the Son is God. And so when God speaks to us through Jesus, this is even more, it's more concrete, it's more real to us, and it requires more of our assent. So Jesus is walking by the Sea of Galilee, and he saw Simon and his brother Andrew casting their nets into the sea. They were fishermen. And he said, "Come after me, and I will make you fishers of men." Now, that is very specific. Back when I was in the seminary, actually it was when I took some time off the seminary, I wanted to get married, so I left the seminary, because getting married and being a priest are not compatible. Yes, you understand. And so I still had my spiritual director from the seminary. I was working for an advertising agency in the city. And I would go to church every single day, except Sundays. And I said, I'm tired on Sundays. I go every other day of the week. And I went to see my spiritual director, and I was going to confession. I said, oh, by the way, I've been missing Sunday Mass. And he looked at me like, oh, by the way? Excuse me, what do you mean? And I said, well, but I go to church every other day of the week. That should be good. That should cover me, right? And actually, he smoked a cigarette. You're doing everything except what God has told you to do. You are deliberately choosing not to do what he asked you to do. Imagine how difficult it would be for me to make a decision or to respond to God's call if I said, well, I'm not going to do what you asked, but I'm going to do all this other good stuff because I like going to Mass. This is really great. It's kind of grounding during the day. So the one simple thing that God asked me to do, I refused to do. And the rest of it is all rationalization. Because it's not, if you're married to somebody and they say, I want you to be faithful to me. And you say, well, I'll buy you a big house, or I'll do all these good things, or, look at all these wonderful things I do. Yeah, but I only asked you to do one thing. Be faithful. And so God's invitation to us, it's very personal. And it's not an obligation. I got news for you. I think Simon and Andrew and James and John, their work as a fisherman was really, really tough. And probably following Jesus was a lot easier. So it's not that God asks us to do the most difficult thing, but he does ask us to follow his will, which is his love. And so we are like Simon and Andrew, James and John. God invites us to be closer to his sacred heart. He wants that so badly that he came down and shared in our humanity so that he could lift us up to share in his divinity. But we can only do that if we follow God, if we do what he asks us to do.